You're listening to the Law Frog Radio Show with David McDivitt and Ross Ford on Kilo 94.3 FM. Presented by McDivitt Law Firm.
94.3 Kilo AC/DC. Dirty deeds done dirt cheap. I almost stuttered my way through that one, Mr. McDivitt. You got me all flustered, as usual. It's time for the goods delivered. And someone suggested we play that one, Dirty Deeds, along with others. We have Ben Cut stealing, some James Dixon, some others. But it's time for you to hang out with our lawyer, Dave McDivitt. What's new, man? How are you?
Good to see you, man. Great talking to you.
Yeah, always a pleasure, my friend. Before we get into the serious business at hand, which we got lots to cover here today, I just want to bring you into the fold here. So the story yesterday was about how many average photos people have on their photo reels on their phone.
Okay.
All right. And I was embarrassed because they said millennials are on the high end, over 2,500. I pull up mine. I had 3,600. I was like, oh, my God, I'm worse than a millennial. And it really shook me to the core. And then Summer came in and totally saved the day. She has 9,078. And then she got an email after the show yesterday, some lady saying she had 53,944 items in her camera reel. So, Dave McDivitt, the question to you is, single father of two, how many do you have on your phone?
All right. Can I tell you, before I answer that question, I was just at a conference. I was a speaker at a legal conference in Florida, and I actually had a slide I brought up where I put the number of photos on my camera roll on the slide as of the time I was supposed to speak. The conference was scheduled for last year. The end of last year, there was a hurricane in Florida, so they canceled they rescheduled the conference to this month. And then I'm going to give you the number, the growth number. All right.
From 1 year to the next.
From 2 months to the
from just a 2-month period?
2-month gap.
Now, and what were you bringing that up for in regards to your appearance and your spoken word there?
I'm talking about data and how much data we accumulate in law firms and how powerful that can be, how to best leverage that data to make sure our clients are getting the best result possible. Okay. So ensuring justice for our clients based on our ability to leverage data for them. And how at our firm, we just celebrated 50 years in business.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah, we've been in business for over 50 years, over $1 billion recovered for our clients. We are, we like to say we're your local $1 billion law firm. But over those years,
what is it like, by the way, you've produced more than some small countries in that time span in 50 years?
Yeah, I'll tell you.
That's amazing.
Well, that's for the client. I mean, it's not like we pocketed $1 billion.
No.
Those recoveries for the clients.
You've gotten that from insurance companies in regards to these claims. Yeah. That's a lot.
And a lot of work's gone into that. But you keep in mind, we started in a very small town here in Colorado. And I hope there are a lot of people listening from La Junta. But I mean, our roots are in southeast Colorado. My dad's from La Junta. My mom's from Los Animas. My sister and I, were in La Junta. We were born in La Junta. I was there until I was 10. And then moved to Colorado Springs. So our roots are in southern Colorado. And we were, we've
known each other forever. I never knew that.
We were one of the first people to have a thermofax. You know what a thermofax is? It's like an old school Xerox machine back in the 1970s. My dad put one in his office, and he had people lined up around the block to come just use his thermofax. But now that's early way of ingesting data. Yeah. So now with my photo, I've got 2 kids, single dad. I've been a full-time single dad for a long time. Great. I want to be careful how I say that. They do see their mom now on special times, so it's not like I'm just only with my kids all the time. 97,000 photos as of November 2024.
97,000. You blew the other lady out of the water. You're like
108,000 photos as of 2 weeks ago.
So you went from 98 to, oh my God, that is amazing. And mostly of the kiddos?
Almost all of the kids. We went to Disneyland when they were little. My daughter was 4. My son was 2. And I went with my mom and my dad. I took 4,500 photos on a 7-day trip to California.
Oh, my God. Did you actually see anything not through your lens?
That's how I view the world. It's through the photo lens.
Right. That's a lot of people do it. It baffles me where you go to a beautiful park or whatever, people are just sitting there.
I had to
staring into their phones.
So I think 2 mornings ago, the frost here in Colorado Springs was just gorgeous on the trees. And I woke up and I was staying with my parents because we had a long weekend. I just flown in from Florida from a conference. They were with the kids, and I woke up and they live surrounded by some trees here in Colorado Springs, and I just looked at the frost on the trees, and I thought, this is beautiful. And I wanted to reach for my phone, and I realized I'm not going to be able to capture this. And even though I want to, my daughter 2 nights ago, she just had the nightlight on her book and the lights in her room were off, but the light was illuminating her face. And I told her I'd be back in to check on her in a little bit. I wanted her to read for a few minutes. And it was a beautiful moment. I didn't have my phone with me. I would have probably taken the photo if I had. And I just have to tell myself, look, David, just log that into your brain and make it. But it's hard. I mean, as a dad, as a parent, you just want to capture every single moment with your kids. And my mom has to keep reminding me. She said, David, when you were a kid, I couldn't take these photos of you. She said, I took money. She took money out of a life insurance policy to buy a camera so that she could have a nice camera to take photos of the kids. And, she put a lot of money into developing film. And again, granted, we don't have that many photos from my childhood, but I think maybe it's in our DNA in my family to try to capture these moments. But I'm glad to know that there are other people out there taking 50-some thousand photos.
Yeah, I figured you'd be on par with Summer, who's also a mother of one. But, man, you blowed everybody out of the water.
This is not because...
108,000.
Yeah, but we're dealing with...
I didn't know they made an iPhone with that much gigabytes.
I keep having to buy new iPhones, and then I don't get rid of the old iPhone. But you know what, Ross? This isn't healthy. It's a compulsion.
Well, actually, this is just a crafty way. Your family's waiting outside. This is actually an intervention day today. That'd be great. Your dad comes in. Listen, son, you've been having a problem with your iPhone camera for some time now.
Yeah.
Oh, man. Well, hey. My friend, you were the champion when it comes to phones.
Thanks.
Killed everybody. Now, again, I feel not bad about myself. My dogs, some food, and then majority of my shots are me accidentally taking a screenshot when I try to turn off my alarm in the morning. So it's like 3:30. I get a bunch of 3:30 a.m. photos.
Yeah, where you can see the digital clock on your phone. Yeah, I've done a few of those.
You're listening to the Law Frog Radio Show with David McDivitt and Ross Ford on Kilo 94.3 FM. Presented by McDivitt Law Firm.
Topical, just because we had both the former president and the current president just wiping everybody off the map in regards to any kind of legal ramifications. And you had the president's kid that was running around smoking crack and waving a gun on camera. That's not a good look. And then you had all these people that, basically rioted and broke into a sacred place here in America, and they're all free. But for a regular person to get that done, it's a lot of work, isn't it?
It's not easy. No, it isn't.
Listen, and this goes to, this is James's question too. He has a felony conviction for a drug felony in Kansas more than a decade ago. Wants to know how to get it expunged. How much does it cost? That's a sad thing. Millions. If you want to make some donations to some presidents and or some governors, maybe you could do that for millions.
You can get a lot accomplished with millions of.
If I move forward, will this information be kept private, not public? And how do I get started?
Right. All right.
Break the hard news, Dave. So again.
Well, listen, there's some good news and some bad news. An expungement is not something that just can unilaterally take place. There is a formal process that you go through to move for an expungement of your record. Whether you're in Colorado or Kansas, the concept is the same, which is an expungement removes that stigma from your public persona.
Okay. Now, what's the difference between that and a pardonment?
Well, so one of them is basically sealing. So the expungement would be sealing that arrest and conviction record.
So it'd still be there, but not available for anyone to see? What's the difference between that and then just washing it away? If no one can see it, it doesn't exist?
Here's why. There are certain instances where just because you've had your record expunged, you still have to disclose it. If you're, for example, applying for a job in law enforcement, if you're applying to become a lawyer, for example, there are certain things, working with children, there are some instances where despite its expungement, you're still required to disclose it. The conviction hasn't gone away.
Okay.
I mean, it was still, it still happened. It's not like you've erased what actually happened and they say, oh, well, it was a mistake and you were never this wasn't supposed to happen. It basically is just sealing it so that databases can't access it.
And that would go to basically job availability and other stuff like that. Makes your life a little bit easier.
Right. If you want to work, you want to just get a traditional job that doesn't involve certain sensitive information or with, young children, for example. And that really is going to depend on what your conviction was for.
Yeah.
So you don't have to disclose it in that instance. So, and it's very helpful. I mean, it really does kind of wash away some of that, as I said, the stigma of that conviction. Now, that's different than a pardon. Basically, what a pardon is doing is saying, look, you've been kind of forgiven for what you did. Like, it still exists. Like, you were still a convicted felon, but you've been pardoned for that. And so now you get some of your rights restored.
There's no ramifications for your acts?
Right,
basically.
exactly.
Now, if you're expunged, do you get your right to vote back and firearm privileges?
Well, it depends. So if you get a pardon, you do. So no.
Not expungement.
An expungement wouldn't do that.
But a pardon
But
does.
a pardon would. So if you want to have a right to, Colorado, you are convicted of a certain crime that then a felony that prohibits you from possessing a firearm. If you get a pardon, you're allowed then, but you have to ask for that as part of the pardon process. The pardon doesn't unilaterally just restore that right. Oftentimes that is as part of the request to the governor. The executive branch here in Colorado is to say, look, I'd like a pardon, and as part of that, I'd like my right to possess and own a firearm to be restored. An expungement wouldn't do that necessarily. Like, you've still been convicted of it. It's just sealing the record for other people to see. That's what an expungement is.
Because the majority of our questions are usually from folks that did something stupid when they were a kid, like this guy, 18 years old or whatever, doing something stupid. And then, Haunchi, you're almost 50 years old. And the majority of these folks that we've heard of in the past, like, hey, I want to take my kid hunting. I'd like to do that. And how do I be able to be around a firearm again? And that process is much different. That's the pardon where you'd have to go to the governor.
That's right.
And be a part of that.
And those are not easy to get.
No.
I mean, now, again, unless you're a Jan 6 rider, in which case it's just like, hey, Katie bar the board. Like, you're going to get one. And it's just a blanket bar.
Don't worry about it. It's fine as long as you know the right guy. But the process is extensive. It's pretty much futile unless, of course, you're a big donor to whoever's running your state or running your country. It's just so crazy sad.
Ross, I don't want to be so cynical to say that it's futile.
What's the chance? Like, just do Dumb and Dumber.
I don't know.
1 in 1,000?
How many people? You want to hold on to this IOU? That's a big one. That's a $250,000 Lamborghini.
That's for a Lambo.
No, that was my Lambo that crashed. I don't want to discourage if it's important to you to push for it. You're going to have to probably have a lawyer that helps you. I'm talking about the pardon process, expungement as well.
Is a lawyer necessary for expungement as well? Probably.
Typically.
Because there's just so much to jump through.
There's just a lot of paperwork. And there are certain instances where you're just not really going to be eligible for expungement. So it's not as if you just say, okay, I did my time. Now I want this all to go away. Most of the time, that's not going to happen.
Crazy.
Yeah, there's some things that are just not eligible for expungement.
So again, start donating big money to a PAC, and then maybe, just maybe, your guy will get in, and then maybe.
Or how about this? Maybe. How about you just run for office yourself?
Oh, and then pardon yourself. That's the way to do it.
We're learning that's
actually a pretty smart way to do it, huh?
Yeah, that's clever.
Got to get some credit out there.
Yeah.
So, James, we tried to call him, and it looks like the number's not quite right. So, hopefully you're listening, buddy, and yeah, if it's that important to you, you can make a run for it, but it is difficult. Like I said, this question has probably been the most asked.
You can either do one of two things. You make a run for it or run to the border.
Right. Move to a new country.
That's right.
You're listening to the Law Frog Radio Show with David McDivitt and Ross Ford on Kilo 94.3 FM. Presented by McDivitt Law Firm.
All right, let's see here. Miles checked in about car title. We'll track him down and put him on the air here in a few minutes. Next question we'll get to involves having to go back to work. Real quick, though, I think we have another thank you on the line. What's up, Guadalupe? Are you there?
Yes, sir. I'm here.
Hey, buddy. Yeah, sorry. We had to put you on holding before I said hello. How rude. Hello, Guadalupe. How are you this morning?
I'm doing well. How about you?
Doing good, dude. I always love this. Love this thing. So tell us about what your problem is, what your problem was, and how you got it fixed. What's been your story the last 5 months?
Okay, so back recap on what we've already been through. So I was picked up from Schriever Space Force Base by federal agents, the CBI, over a felony that I do not have.
I do kind of remember this question. Yeah.
Yeah, out of Wyoming, and then, it took me 5 months to get the case dismissed. I went back and forth to Cheyenne, Wyoming, probably like 5 times.
Oh, no one deserves that.
No, it's not fair, man. I quit drinking. I quit smoking cigarettes after my dad died of lung cancer. Like, I did all these things to be better for my kids, and, the system still wants me for some reason. I don't understand. It's like a bad ex-girlfriend, I swear.
I can't get rid of her.
But okay, so
back on track here. So I got it dismissed. We got to the point where the state of Colorado was ready to subpoena the state of Wyoming for my paperwork.
Right.
And, I finally got it dismissed. I'm free from that. But see, now my second problem is if I was to go try to purchase another firearm, I'd still be red flagged. I'd still be, in trouble. And now I want to try to figure out who I would reach out to or what I could do to see if I have a case and how to clear my name of the felony that's still in NCIC that shouldn't be there.
Okay, so again, you're not a convicted felon, correct?
No,
right.
Correct.
And
that is 100% correct.
Was this, I'm trying to remember, was this because you shared the same name as somebody else?
No. So what it was in 2012, 13, somewhere around there. So from my understanding on my last court date was they have the misdemeanor and the felony in records, and the district attorney here in Colorado was saying that it's very, very difficult to understand what they have in there because they have the misdemeanor and the felony, so it's hard to figure out what's what when you get all the paperwork from NCIC.
All right, so are you saying that the prosecutor was confused about just the legal language of because you weren't. I really am trying to understand this, Guadalupe. They charged you, or you were convicted of a misdemeanor, correct?
Yes. So my original charge was felony. It was amended, and after they got everything, it was grabbed down to a misdemeanor, and I was convicted of a misdemeanor.
All right.
And I did my probation. I did everything on that, you know what I mean, to clear my name of that, and then...
But it's still showing. It's still showing as a felony in what record system?
The district attorney was saying that in the NCIC, like the federal database or whatever, he said that's where it's still, my felony is still popping up, and that's where he believes the confusion is coming in because there's no felony.
All right. Okay, I get it. So what we're trying to do is get the mention of a felony removed from the NCIC record.
Correct, because I still would like to use my Second Amendment right, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Huh.
All right.
He's just getting started, I'm afraid.
Oh my gosh.
He just spent 5 months getting to square one.
After all of that, now this is round number 2.
Exactly.
How are you pretty eager to get that gun?
Well, I'm not political, I'm not religious, but I just really want to defend my home because people don't want to work these days. They want to go out and take from everybody else.
Yeah. We've seen that theft ring of these people robbing famous celebrities, sports stars. Yeah, I mean, some sophisticated theft. Okay.
Yeah,
Guadalupe, there may be a way to do this. I'm unfamiliar with how to go about getting something like that removed from that.
It's almost like a clerical error is going to haunt this guy forever.
Yeah, and I think there's a way to do it. I mean, you're probably going to need to get somebody who's familiar, an attorney who's familiar with dealing with, federal. Maybe it's not a federal crime though. I mean, it's just in a national database shared by state agencies. See, that's the thing. So. Just trying to get that removed. I don't have here's the thing. I don't have a great answer for you. I think trying to find somebody who does criminal law, a criminal defense attorney who has experience also. I really do think it would be helpful to have somebody with some experience with federal charges too, because those, maybe there's a separate database as well where your stuff is being pinged to another database as well, and they might have experience with that. And I think that's the best way to do it. I mean, it's going to cost some money. And that's why I asked, look, nobody wants that staying on their record. I'm just trying to be pragmatic about it, too. You're spending a lot of time. You've been driving back and forth to Cheyenne. It has consumed a lot of your time. And what you wanted to try to do is get somebody who could do this for you so that you can get back to living your life. And then you can get that gun when you're ready. By the way, have you tried? You probably, and you want to be careful, too, if you know that you've got that on your record before you go in and try.
That's what led to your problems the first time, right, man?
Yeah, so in my eyes, I don't even want to go attempt it because the last time they did it crumbled my life. Like, I almost didn't have a place to put my family. Like, I lost my job for 45 days. Like, and there's still problem after problem after problem keeps bouncing on me. But, I'm a grown man. I got a wife and kids at home. I can't just quit. I got to keep going.
No, I understand.
Let's get through this and say he gets everything cleared up. Is there any kind of legal ramifications as far as a lawsuit against Wyoming for their inept handling of this case? I mean, this is truly reckless. I mean, even just the 45 days of no work, he should be able to compensate it for his salaries.
Those cases can be tricky because you're there are certain claims that you can make if your rights have been deprived, by a governmental actor.
Right.
And I am concerned that something like this doesn't rise to the level where it's going to really be viable.
Amazing.
Because, I mean...
The guy had to drive to Wyoming 6 times.
I need to be compensated for the trips north.
Going to Wyoming alone. Ready for this? This is my impersonation of a Wyoming lawyer. Ready? Misdemeanor, isn't she the one that runs the gas station down the street?
Misdemeanor.
Right? Misdemeanor, that's her name, I think.
Mrs. Demeanor to you.
That's terrible. Well, you're halfway there, Guadalupe. Keep on fighting, buddy.
Yeah, and I guess I got one more question on the whole lawsuit thing, because I did my research, I did my homework on a few things. So, if not like the state of Wyoming, so the CBI, the Colorado Bureau of Investigations, is based off honesty and the facts before they make their decisions, but clearly in their federal database, if they did their research, they would have known that I am not a convicted felon. Would that play a factor on them even?
Well, it might. Again, you're dealing with the same type of a claim, kind of a civil rights claim here. And that's just going to be one of the facts that you would present to show that they deprived you of those rights.
Yeah,
and
my whole
that you're
thing
damaged
is
because of it too. It's.
Would there be any civil lawyer that would want to take his case?
Oh, there might be. Yeah, I mean,
hopefully.
If there's a civil lawyer listening who would like to take Guadalupe's case, give us a call. We'll hook you up.
That's right.
Yeah, I would appreciate it because my whole thing, it all boils down in my life. I'm 31 years old. I moved from Wyoming almost 2.5 years ago to Colorado so I could rebuild my reputation because I was not the greatest human being prior. And then as soon as I get out here and I get everything settled for my family, it's like everybody wants to spit on my name all over again. I'm just trying to be a decent human being.
I understand. It is tricky. Some of that will just be down to if you're able to prove that there was some kind of violation of your civil rights, and then what are the damages because of it. And this is why, like I said, there might be an attorney who wants to get involved in that, and there might be many who just say, hey, listen, I don't think that even for you, Guadalupe, the juice is worth the squeeze because you've got an uphill battle. And by the way, I'm not trying to sound pessimistic. I know that I am, but that's not my intention. I just also, again, put on my pragmatist hat. I'm just wondering how much more you want to go down this road, because you are focused on moving forward, doing right by your kids and your family, and establishing yourself. And I just don't know that it's going to be a terribly viable option for you. But again, it might be, and that's not where my focus is, so I'm less familiar with that. And I don't want to steer you the wrong way, too. And I don't want to say something that it kind of skews you from pursuing a claim that maybe is going to be really fruitful for you. But I would start by getting somebody to help you get that record cleared up so that you can, like you said, step one is you want to be able to buy a gun, and what is getting in the way of that is what is on that federal database.
Which is just a typo, which just blows me away that he has to go through that much work.
Yeah, or the national database.
Good luck, Guadalupe. Keep in touch, okay?
Yeah, I definitely will. As soon as I get some more info or whatever, I'll reach out to you guys again because I really appreciate it. I'm no lawyer. I've been on the other side of the justice system, and I want to be free. That's it.
Yeah,
I just want to be free and left alone.
There's a saying that's unfortunately true: nice guys often finish last, and he's just trying to do the good thing and pile on. But it's also just a test too of your fortitude, there, Guadalupe. Fight the good fight. Fight the good fight, my friend. All right, let's get to some other points of business here. This is interesting because two different angles. Questions about being forced back into the office. It's now a thing. So, going to give you two scenarios for Colorado employees. An employee that worked at an office before the pandemic and then started working home during the pandemic and now is being brought back into the office or mandated, as they say. Mm-hmm. And then compared to someone who was hired, let's say, during the work at home mandate. So that when they got their job, it's like, hey, you're going to be working at home. Here's your computer and here's login stuff. And now they're like, hey, it's come back to work time. It's like, we never went to work the first place. Is there a difference between the two? And can you contest being dragged back to the office?
So The general answer for both is going to be no.
Oh!
No.
Is it because our state, the right to work state or whatever? Is that factoring in?
Employment at will. Yeah, Colorado's an employment at will state, which basically says, look, you can quit your job at any time. You can be fired at any time, absent certain circumstances. There are reasons why an employer cannot fire somebody that just exist under law. You
might be a handsome gay man wearing a sweet flannel shirt, and they can't sue you and kick you out for that, right?
No, not for that reason. Now, if you were wearing maybe rayon, it's a little different. But flannel, that is sacrosanct. There are anti-discriminatory areas that you can.
The normal stuff.
Protect.
Race, religion, right. Exactly. Sex, disability, stuff like that.
ADA Act, a lot of these things that can impact whether an employer can terminate you. Now, you can still be let go under certain circumstances, but you have more protections in that situation. Really, very few having to do with whether you're working from home, you're asked to come back into the office. The other thing that's at play here, too, is perhaps you have a contract. If you do have a contract that may dictate whether you're going to be working from home or not, that could impact whether or not they can bring you back. Now, I will just say, though, I think under most circumstances, I sound like I'm Canadian, under most circumstances, it's about time that you came back into the office because we're going to really need to see a person.
Hey?
We want to get we want to get anything done. You're just playing hockey all the time. There are, by the way, I know not all Canadians play hockey, but of the Canadians that I have met, they all seem to be either hockey players themselves or related to famous NHL players.
That's true.
I was on a date recently with a woman. She's from Canada, and she's like, we were at a game. She said, I know so-and-so and so-and-so. I'm like, how do you know them? She's like, well, in high school, he used to party with us because my cousin, who's also in the NHL, by the way, is like actually a really famous NHL player, they were like buddies, and he'd come over. I'm like, wow, you think Canada's like 17 people, all of whom play hockey in the NHL? All right, we're totally off topic here. Yes, the employer can generally say, look, we sent you home because of COVID. We want you back in. Or we hired you during COVID and we were having you work from home. We want you back in. They have a good reason for doing it. You can quit. But, generally employers are able to dictate, where the work environment is. Granted, there are certain circumstances that are going to say, like, they have to make reasonable accommodations for certain people based on some of these protected issues. But I think generally what these people are asking is, hey, look, I've kind of gotten used to this lifestyle of working remotely, and I don't want to go back in. There are other employers who are hiring remote workers, and we still operate on kind of a hybrid model where most people work a few days from home, 3 days in the office, that kind of a thing. We're making that work. I don't know that I love it, but at the same time, I also see the benefits of it for some of what we do. There are some people at my office where they just basically have to come in every day. There are others where, we have people who work for us out of state too, and it just really depends on what their role is. But I still believe firmly in the benefits of being in person with people. Just the creativity that flows from that. I think generally you can drive more efficiencies that way. But I've also seen enough efficiencies from certain remote work that I just know they can work. In many instances, it can work, but it's going to be business specific and situationally too. Like, you may find that right now we can work this way, but as our business model changes, or as the demands on us as an employer or as a business change, we need these people back into the office. And you're seeing that with some of these large corporations where and even the government, where they're trying to bring people back in to the office, and there's a resistance to it. But, I think you had some employers who during COVID said, look, you know what, this is working out really well. We'll never bring people back into the office. And then
we're saving money on coffee.
3 years later.
Saving a fortune on coffee.
Yeah. But they're finding that people are trying to work 2 jobs at the same time, like from home. There are abuses in that system too. So it's, I see it from both sides, and it's tricky. It's not easy, but
I'm a button monkey, so I had to be here for the whole thing. But it was cool though, because it was like an eternal Saturday because you're all alone basically. And there was like a half hour in between the next person showing up. So. And
you could wear a swimsuit, which, by the way, you look great in a swimsuit right now. But
swimsuit, slide around. I slid around and set up a slip and slide in the big room.
Yep.
It was wonderful fun. It was almost like Home Alone, but a radio guy.
And that's why there's still whipped cream on the ceiling.
Man, so
ice cream sundaes.
I was convinced, so if you already worked at an office before the pandemic, you would have no case. But if they hired you during the pandemic to work at home, I thought you'd have something to lean on. But no.
But tell me why you think that.
Just because that was the job you hired me for, is to work at home. Unless it was stipulated in there, a future date could have you return to this. But so you hired me, I'm working from home. And then my thing, like, personally, I would be upset. Well, I've never been removed, but just the fact that, everything's more expensive. Gas is more expensive. And so you're saving some money on gas, I'm sure.
Yeah. Listen, and this is where I go back to.
No one's getting raises, too, so that's the thing.
This is a tight economy right now. It's tough.
You're listening to the Law Frog Radio Show with David McDivitt and Ross Ford on Kilo 94.3 FM. Presented by McDivitt Law Firm.
Miles checked in about, he's got a buddy who has a car with no title. What does he do? But I must have written down your number wrong, Miles, because I just tried calling and it did not work.
Ross, Miles has a friend of a friend of a friend who has this problem.
He knows a guy who might know a guy who has a guy that knows a guy.
So, Miles, I just want you to know Ross tried to write your number down correctly, but
how can I screw it up? It was a bunch of threes. It's not like someone could be, whoa, is that a 2 or a 7? I don't know.
It's not my fault you're not good at numbers.
Miles, is this you?
Yeah.
There we go.
Hey, buddy. I read like a serial killer. I'm sorry. Thanks for calling.
It's all good.
All right. So, kind of quick version. Your buddy who's in the military bought a car from a guy, $9,000, and then kind of basically just sat at his house. And then he doesn't have the title anymore. He can't find it. And now he's got basically a bricked car. Is that right?
Yeah. He bought it for $9,000 and then didn't put the title in his name because he's dumb and moved around, lost it, and further proving that he's dumb. But he wants to know what his options are because he's trying to sell it now, so he wants to be able to get that title so that he can actually sell it.
First of all, what kind of car is it? I'm curious.
I don't know.
It's not like an old Barracuda or some muscle car or something cool like that?
No, it's probably something stupid like a Miata.
Like a Miata.
Just so you know, when I was 16, my dream car was a Miata. I really, or a Honda Civic Del Sol. Do you remember those?
With a little pop-off top?
Yes. Oh my gosh.
I was like, when I was before I could drive, but I wanted one of those convertible Rabbits, and then I learned that was for chicks. I was like, I can't have that.
Listen, I don't know how many. I don't. The Miata. Maybe I shouldn't cop to that, but.
Well, regardless, so he never got a license plate on the thing.
Right.
Okay.
So right there, you need to get a license plate because then the state has your title and all that, and it's easy to request a copy of that because I lose stuff all the time.
Okay, I've got a couple more questions. I think we can get in the right direction here with this.
Go ahead.
All right. You said he never put the title in his name. Was the title then left in the seller's name?
The physical copy that he was given was signed over and everything, but I don't think he returned that into the state.
Okay. All right.
And he went to the DMV a couple days ago and could not get the title for it. So I imagine that it never made its way to the DMV, never made it to getting his name.
Wow. So, unbeknownst to some guy out there, he still owns this car if he wants it.
That's awesome.
He has no idea, though. And he can't get a hold of the original seller, right?
The original seller ought to call me. I'm apparently in the market for a Miata. So, it's 20 years later, I'm finally getting my hands on one of those sweet rides.
Wow. Oh, well, all right. Any other questions?
30 years later. Jeez.
This goes fast, huh?
Oh, my gosh. Okay, so and this is another question. Is the prior seller still in the world, in the picture, available? Can you communicate with, or can Miles, can your buddy communicate with the seller?
No, he purchased it through Facebook Marketplace and cannot get back into contact. Can't find the message chain or anything along those lines to even try to get back in contact with him.
All right. Well, listen, I'm trying to go with some of the easy, low-hanging fruit answers here.
Now, what about
that's what I suggested too, was try to find that.
Yeah, it's going to start costing a little bit of money, I think, because I think he's going to need to get a lawyer to help him go through the DMV to try to get this done. I think it can be done. I mean, it's not like this is a ghost car at the moment, but it's not like it doesn't exist. That VIN is on record, that there was a title presumably filed by the prior owner. So it's just a question of being able to maybe establish that he did purchase it, because he's going to probably need to establish the purchase somehow, because if that title was never reflected as a transfer and it was still originally registered under the prior owner, it's like that. I mean, has that even been extinguished in the records, in the historical records? I'm not sure that it has. So does he have an invoice? You paid $9,000 for it. You usually get a receipt somehow. Like, did he get a cashier's check? You might have to go back and look at bank records to establish that there was this transaction somehow. All of these things, I think, will be very helpful in establishing that he did purchase the vehicle and then getting a replacement title. But I think the best thing to do right now is get an attorney who works with the DMV. Oftentimes, attorneys who work on traffic infractions they have a lot of DMV experience and title work as well. So, I would start by having your friend look for attorneys who do title work, car, auto, consumer purchases, things like that.
I don't know if this will help, but years ago...
it's not going to help. I just know this. Keep going.
Purchased an old pop-up trailer from some of my wife's parents' friends in Black Forest. This thing had sat for 20 years or whatever, and they sold to us for $1. They didn't have a title for it.
Okay.
So I had to go to the DMV. I had to put up, I think it was like a $500 bond.
Okay.
Something that was refundable. And then they basically sent letters to the previous title holder to see if they wanted to claim this vehicle. And, of course, they didn't. And then once that cycle went through, it was like a 90-day cycle. I got my money back. They give me a fresh title for the vehicle. It's almost like when I know a bunch of tow truck people. They'll tow vehicles, and then no one will show up and claim it. So they can file an abandoned vehicle thing in the same deal. They put a bond out, and then they send that out. And if no one tags it and says it's mine, you become the owner.
Ross, I stand 100% corrected. That is very helpful.
Yeah.
You are very helpful.
So a vehicle and a trailer, or they're in the same? They're apples to apples.
In that sense, I think they are. I mean, I think that's really good. I just haven't experienced with this, but I mean, that sounds.
So maybe look at that first at the DMV. It's title reclamation, I want to say it was called, something to that effect. My brain's too full of hops and malt and stuff like that to really remember correctly.
No, it's firing on overdrive. You're a lawyer for a day right here, Ross Ford.
I'm not a lawyer. I'm a caveman who was sun frozen. So I'd start there, and you might even call like a local tow truck place and say, hey, here's the deal. How do you guys go about getting titles on vehicles that no one claims? And they might be able to help you out.
This is great. Ross, thank you.
Huh? Do you want me to sign me on to a big contract? I'm not going into the office, though. I'm going to work at home.
Well, we're hiring you from your remote workstation here at Kilo 94.3.
All right, Miles, good luck with your buddy, okay?
Okay, thank you for all of your help.
No problem, man. There you go. See, I'm much smarter than those Wildman lawyers. Ms. Demeanor, isn't she the one that runs the gas station?
I swear, I think I saw that in the first half of Cars. Which, by the way, is still all I've seen. I have
never seen.
I might have 110,000 photos of my kids, but I've yet to finish Cars. So what kind of dad am I?
Dave McDivitt, our guest. We're pretty much done here, my friend. We got a couple minutes. You want to do? We really only have like about 3 minutes left. Do you want to dig into Katie real quick? And this is crazy too.
How did you just say that?
Katie is hitting up for her nephew. So, Did
we talk about this last time? I wonder about this, but this is a really interesting thing, and we'll try to talk really briefly about it.
All right, so read her question. Katie, nephew is wanting to divorce his wife. They have one kid together. Mm-hmm. He works full-time. She also has 2 other kids from different fathers. Gets around. Does not have a job. She uses the government for food stamps and child care. She already texted the nephew saying she wants to give up on life and give him his son anyways. Do you think he can get full custody and fight for her payment? I don't understand. So
fight her for payment? Yeah.
So take custody of the kid and then try to get. Well, if she's not working and it's living off government food stamps, a Pyrrhic
victory at that point. But yeah, so let me just
the dry well.
Yep. Let me just kind of answer this in a nutshell. Yes, I mean if she's cooperative, if she's cooperative and she really doesn't want the parental responsibilities and she agrees to it, it actually smooths up the process of filing the paperwork, and you have a stipulation in place where he would get, the parental rights, physical custody of the kids, maybe sole decision making. All those are the things that get baked up into this concept of full custody. They would want to discuss if she's going to have some visitation, what that's going to look like, and she may be reasonable with a lot of this. And then when you start talking about the money component, she may become less reasonable. Because I think that's sometimes where parents start saying, whoa, I understand you want to take the kids, but now I don't have any money, so I can't pay you for that.
Right.
So, yes, generally what happens is if you have a custody arrangement in place, there is typically, unless you agree not to, one person is going to be obligated to pay the other person based on some formula. There's an entire framework, a form that can be filled out, and you calculate everything from the income to whether or not somebody's paying for health insurance for the children. There's some things they factor in. There are many things they don't not factor to determine what one parent's share of the cost is for the parenting. And if there's a discrepancy, then one has to pay the other. So if one parent has full custody, another parent has, like 0 overnights, for example. You got 365 overnights versus 0 overnights. The person with 0 overnights theoretically then has a burden of payment to the other parent. If that person doesn't have a steady income, or if they don't have any income at all, sometimes you agree to waive it. Because what happens is then if you do have a court order in place with child support and then they're in arrears because they're not able to pay it, it creates a whole host of other problems for that parent who not only doesn't have custody, but then they have this increasing obligation that can be challenging. So
we've seen this on the other side of things a lot, where a girl takes full custody and then gets nothing from the father. And
that's right.
Fights that for years and years, and sometimes eventually gets something, but most often gets nothing. I mean, guys quit jobs to work off the grid just to not pay child support. It's kind of sad.
That's really tough. So my advice is if you're a good dad, do whatever you can.
Yeah, I mean,
obviously, custody and don't worry about the money part.
I was going to say, that kid's a lot better in a loving home with dad.
Yes, you'll work the money. I mean, it sounds kind of glib to say you'll work the money stuff out later, but if she's willing to agree to that, and she feels that's in the best interest of the kids, and you do too, and you guys can both honestly look each other in the eyes and say, this custody arrangement is in the best interest of our children, then that's where your focus needs to be for the benefit of the kids.
Yeah, I think so. That's absolutely right. And then she hits the lottery one day, then take her to court and get a chunk of that.
Boom.
All right. Hey, and then real quick, too, to prove you know what you're talking about, Mr. McDivitt. Thanks. Tracy checked in with a text. Hey, guys, listening to the discussion about being brought back into the office, I worked for a large company, and prior to the pandemic, my manager approved me to be a permanent worker from home. After the company required all to come back to the office, they did not care that I had sold my car, and they suggested I walk or ride a bike to work. Dude, talk about heartless, right? And she was 45 minutes from them.
Oh, jeez.
She had to quit her job.
Yeah.
So, yeah, there was no quarter.
Thank you for listening to the Law Frog Radio Show with David McDivitt and Ross Ford on Kilo 94.3 FM, presented by McDivitt Law Firm.